Welcome to another video segment of our Redox Doc video lecture series. Today's topic is dementia. And as much as there is mystery and a lot of science and a lot of research that's been done over a long period of time, recent conclusions seem to really indicate that by and large, dementia, in particular Alzheimer's disease, is really a disorder of redox metabolism gone bad. So it is a redox disorder, and let's talk about why it is. First of all, our brain is a very specialized organ. It consumes 20% of our oxygen in our body. It only represents 2% of our body weight. So what that means is it's very active metabolically. It's burning a lot of fuel, it's burning a lot of oxygen, it's creating a lot of waste products. In other words, a lot of the waste products that are oxidative stress in nature. So our body has built-in mechanisms to help us. So the increased blood supply comes along and washes away a lot of the byproducts of metabolism. There are antioxidants that are rich in our brain to help us deal with the free radicals that are created that can cause damage and the toxic waste that is neutralized by our antioxidants. However, as we live life, there are problems, and that's where we're going to kind of focus in on tonight. So dementia is a general term that refers to a variety of brain decline disorders. So basically, it's cognitive decline. We can't remember names. We can't do calculations. We have labile emotions, and all of this is because of a breakdown in certain parts of the brain that are characteristic in dementia. Alzheimer's disease represents about 3/4 of all the dementias. There are other kinds, vascular dementia, Lewy body dementia, and others that represent about 1/4. But tonight, because of the overwhelming prevalence of Alzheimer's disease, let's zoom in on that as the perfect example. So in Alzheimer's disease, the basic problem is oxidative stress leads to a buildup of a certain protein called beta amyloid. And this is where most of the research has revolved. Is it a failure to release the beta amyloid and therefore it accumulates? Or is there a problem in extra production? And it appears it's a little bit of both. But basically, this accumulation of amyloid is a failure to correct the oxidative stress that is leading to this. So if we can deal with oxidative stress, we can prevent the breakdown. So what is the breakdown? It boils down to about 3 things. There's an increase in lipid peroxidation. So the lipid linings in our brain membranes, the membranes that surround the nerve endings and things like that are critical in those cells being able to do their work of transmitting information, producing neurotransmitters, reuptaking those neurotransmitters. It depends on the lipid layers. They just rust and break down. Secondly, DNA and protein get oxidized in our brain cells, and there are markers for looking at that, and one is this chemical called deoxyhydrodeguanosine, and this is a mouthful, but this little marker is very critical in our understanding of the oxidative stress in our brain. Lastly, there's an accumulation of certain things like copper, iron, and zinc. These heavy metals do accumulate in our brain as we live life. And if we don't deal with that, they can be a place for rust to occur on. So recent therapies are all targeting the oxidative pathways in our brain, and that would be the root treatment. So if we can get to this whole issue of dealing with oxidative stress in our brain, we can eliminate or minimize this breakdown and accumulation of these proteins. So let's talk about some innovative solutions. So, well, first of all, let me discuss a little bit about medical therapies. Medical therapies do not really touch on this today. They are simply chemicals that we can take into our body that kind of squeeze a little extra action out of our nerve cells so that we can function a little better. It doesn't really get to the oxidative roots. So this is more in the new areas of research are focused on this. But I like to talk about some solutions that are revolving around redox. And sure, you can combine both therapies. And I wouldn't even consider the redox approach to dementia a therapy. It's really just a health endeavor that we can certainly choose to do. There was a recent study conducted by Dr. David Neiman using a redox supplement. Dr. Neiman is a respected scientist in the area of exercise physiology, and he was looking at the safety of this kind of supplementation because athletes want to take things that are safe. And so he did a safety study. He basically took about 108 middle-aged women and put them through a 90-day trial. Basically, they just drank a redox solution, 4 ounces a day, and then he measured a variety of parameters, everything from liver functions to blood counts and so forth. But what he found that was very, very exciting was there was about a 6 nanogram per milliliter reduction in dihydrodeoxyguanosine. And this is a marker that goes up when we have DNA oxidation in our body. And our DNA is important not to rust. We depend on it for our cells to replicate themselves. But our body, needless to say, does experience this kind of stress as we age. And it was fascinating. This was not a small reduction. The P-score was 0.043. So for this to be just like luck is impossible. That was a statistically very significant degree of change. And any way impossible that we can reduce the rust of our DNA is going to reduce the incidence of the kind of damage that we see that leads to this accumulation of this protein. So, so basically, take care of oxidative stress, and we avoid the buildup of this protein. So, what are the practical things that we can do just living life? First of all, we reduce oxidative stress when we provide enough hydration to our cells. Water is critical. We're 70% water. Our cells, every organelle inside a cell, from the mitochondria to the nucleus, are swimming around in a bag of saline solution, and most of that is water. So because of that, if there's a breakdown in the amount of fluid that is in our cells, then our bodies are similarly effective. So healthy cells means healthy bodies. Next, we can green up our diet. That's a nice way of saying focus on plants as opposed to animals in our food consumption. Make the majority of our calories come from plant foods and the minority coming from animal foods. This has a way of balancing our physiology. It makes for less oxidative stress in our metabolism. Most of the oxidative stress in our body is a result of creating acids. And fruits and vegetables, when they're metabolized, have an alkaline outcome, the opposite of an acid. So it just takes a workload off our body. Exercise. Everywhere you look, in all traditions from around the world, all cultures, exercise is a critical component in our health. The main reason I believe that exercise helps us is it creates 2 signals. The first is when we exercise, we're telling our mechanisms in our body that we're healthy. We're healthy enough to get out and go do stuff. And our bodies were designed to work. We're designed to do things, be active. Secondly, as we increase our blood supply to our muscles, we're literally cleansing our body. So we sweat and we pump blood and oxygen through our tissues. And they're used in the way they were designed by God to just help us be physically active. We're like that. And so exercise signals to our body that all is well. Let's get on and do and promote a better metabolic balance in our body. So our hormones move into balance. Even our adrenal gland moves into balance with exercise. And lastly, one way to reduce oxidative stress is to simply supplement a redox supplement. And we today have access to a liquid supplement that works very well, travels across our blood-brain barrier because they're very tiny little molecules and are capable of restoring balance not only in our brain, but in our entire body. And when we have an abundance in a balanced resource of these kinds of redox molecules, our body begins to think and gets the clear message that things are okay. We've got resources that we can use, and it will pick and choose the right molecules to put to work. And there might be molecules in our Redox supplement that are not needed. They simply are sort of reconverted back into saline where they came from. So I hope that helps you understand a little bit about dementia. It is a redox disorder. It's a problem of oxidative stress in our body that doesn't get corrected. And there are things we can do, take action right at a grassroots, our day-to-day life kind of level, to make a difference in our health and to make a difference for people that we know. Thanks for paying attention. We'll see you at the next course.